and thanks for being here. This is the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Today is April 11, 2024. It is 5:30 p.m. We will convene the meeting. This is the work session. Item number 1 on the work session is Kip Hamden LLP with a request to do an extension for the disposition and development agreement for a land sale or a parcel of land which they purchased from the city, from Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. The development agreement, I provided everybody with a copy of it.
Yes.
That was signed and executed on August of 2021, and the closing, I think, happened on November 9th of 2021. Circumstances have changed in that amount of time, which has prompted the request from Kip Hamden for an extension. With us this evening is Tim Lamb, General Counsel for Kip Hamden, who will further give further information, explanation on that letter that was sent and answer any questions that anybody might have. Tim, thank you for being here.
Come up. So you're all, I'm sure you all read through our request. It's just real simple. It's a matter of economics. Costs have gone way up, as you all have probably experienced if you've built anything, and we just need more time. I in fact had a conversation with our contractor today about trying to cut down the size of the building a little bit too, to save some costs. They have been submitting plans to the city for approval. They've gotten comments back. So we didn't slow the process, but the actual construction to start turning soil and all that, it's just right now the cost is just astronomical. As I said in the letter, when we actually applied to be able to buy that land, we were looking at $3 to maybe $4 million. Now we're up to 12 to 13 million to build that. And it's just, it doesn't work for the business to open there. When you look at what we pay now, and I understand we're in a 100-year-old building over on Main Street, but the rent would go up about 10 times. And the business can't make it. And so we don't want to have to lay people off, try to build something and then we just can't make it work. We think we can cut the costs down significantly, but we kind of have to go back to the drawing board, not only with the size of the building and the construction side, then we have to go back to Stellantis, which is Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Ford. Because part of the size of the building as it increased was them. Ford and Chrysler don't want anything touching, basically, to each one. So the way the design is set up, we have Chrysler on one side, Ford on the other, and in the middle, we had an accessories shop, basically, so that they're not connected. We're going to try to get that changed. So Ford and Chrysler still want the dealership down here, which is a good thing because sometimes they change their minds. So that's why we're asking for an extension, so we can put some of this together, get it done right, and then start construction. As I said, our contractor, which is Commercial Building Services, they're still moving forward with everything. And then, because that's been the intention. But right now, we just don't see that the dollars are there. So that's, any questions with any of it?
Commissioner Holland, you did express your opinion on the last meeting, but you have...
No, it makes sense, it's reasonable. These are folks that we've done work with. We've sitting here for the last couple of years, you get a chance to see things from kind of beginning and where things are. I think we've almost partnered with some of the folks that are here, and I see most of our relationships a lot of times as a separated partnership. I mean, there's certainly a firewall between what we're supposed to do and where they are, but I think it could be a small firewall. I think we would be. So no, I think I said at that time, I'm very supportive of providing people the time based on the realities we find ourselves in, all of us find ourselves in over the last couple of years. So that's all for me.
And you know us, so as you said, you know us. And we have another project that Steve's involved in with the school and convent.
We have past success.
and we're still moving ahead with that.
Yep.
It's just, that one is a little more locked in at this point. But we also, for that project, we have hopes of money from DOLA. There's some federal funds that we've applied for. You're applying for the grant for the street.
Yep.
To the utilities and, you know, sewer drainage, all that.
And the city's put in Housing Now funds.
Housing Now funding too. So a little different because there's outside funds that can help us with the increases in cost. The dealership, that's just us.
You're on your own.
We're on our own with that. So, but anything else? Did
I
anybody
have a
have
few questions. Tim, so, you know, we all know Mr. Trevino passed away.
Yes.
And it just happened to be super bad timing for this to come into our lap saying we need an extension now. Is it coincidence? Is that, that's what happened? Well, the public perspective is, oh, they're not gonna build it now. So are they gonna still do it? In the past couple of days, I've seen a lot of the vehicles from Ford dealership down at the Toyota. Are they vacating that building? I've heard, you know, rumors that they're gonna put it down at the temporary. So all that stuff comes to fruition. But my question is, from 4 million to 15 million, downsizing the building, is that gonna get you back into your budget?
No, but we're hoping some costs will come down too. You know, lumber costs, when we started building the hotel, lumber costs just skyrocket, like 300%. Those things are coming back down, but we have other ways through our contractor to value engineer some things. And maybe reduce a little bit the size of the lot itself in the areas that we're gonna pave and areas that are concrete versus asphalt. There's just, that's what they call value engineering. Maybe change some of the fixtures inside. There's different things we can do. We won't get it down to 3 to 4, but we may get it down to 6 or 8 or 7, and then it will make economic sense.
Okay, so the plan is still to move forward.
It is, it's still to move
So
forward.
what's the time frame you're looking, you need the entire 3 years of extension? Would a year extension be sufficient, 6 months?
I don't think that short a time will. I asked for more than I thought we needed. I figured we'd be breaking ground in about a year and a half to 2 years, but I wanted extra. Our plan is not to vacate the building on Main Street. I have not yet talked to Jeff Cook about an extension, who owns that building. But in the past, we've had conversations that if he need more time, you know, he has the building for sale, but he has for the last year and a half, he got it for sale and he hasn't any offers. So I think he likes the fact that we're in there paying him rent for a building that he doesn't have a loan on. So we plan to stay there in that building until we get something constructed. We just hopefully we can get something that's a little more manageable. We use for the old city garage building, we use that for big trucks. But we also that's probably why you're seeing some vehicles move around. So the Ford store and the Dodge, they actually would bring trucks down there to work on. So you'll see vehicles in and out of there. I think when we need overflow, they've been parking on the edge of the lot right there in the corner of Cedar and Chestnut. They've been parking some cars there for short term, and then they bring them back because then we have people at the Toyota store who do some of the reconditioning, the pre-delivery we call it with new vehicles. And so currently right now, Lisa Camarillo, our general manager at Toyota, is actually operating as our temporary general manager of the Ford Chrysler store. So she brings stuff over to her people and just get that done. So that's why you're seeing that, but we're not moving vehicles anywhere. We're not allowed to use the Toyota building for any other franchises. We'd lose our franchise with Toyota if we did that.
Okay,
So with Mr. Cimino passing, let me tell you, the timing was a coincidence. I had talked to Ed previously about this before I submitted anything formally, that we might be needing that, and how would he like the process, and what would all of you need from us? And he said, write a letter, write something to us. At that point, Jay was not feeling great, but we never thought that he'd be passing. So this is really a coincidence in time. We came down here, a number of our executive team came down here a few weeks ago, and we met with all our employees. to let them know that we're still here. We're not pulling out of Trinidad. So our plan is to keep moving ahead. As I say, the Holy Trinity School and Convent is a project that will take several years. Once we get the asbestos and the lead paint abated, which should be done by this summer, then we're gonna start working on the construction. We have other small projects. We're still doing some things over in the Puerto by the hotel. And we're sort of regrouping. You lose a guy like Jay, it's not easy to replace him. He kind of did everything and anything that he put his mind to. So we're still committed to Trinidad.
Now your new CEO has a board to answer to instead of being the CEO himself of the owner, so yeah, I get that. The other question I have is, since the Hughes building was just recently awarded to your company, moving forward, that's got the same kind of stipulations on that. Do we see an extension needed on
No.
that? And also, I don't think, and I remember our board, we had a conversation on that regarding secured funding to show the urban renewal before that sale was done. And at the time, it was not needed because of the working relationship that you have. Is that something we need to reevaluate to make sure you have that funding mechanism in place to protect the citizens of Trinidad for the contract that we're in for urban development? So the development process, we have an obligation to protect the folks. City Council gifted this to Urban Renewal, and we have a responsibility to make sure that our developers have the funding mechanisms in place to get moved forward. How can we be assured of that?
Well, I will tell you, the plan for that building has not changed. All we're waiting on right now is History Colorado to give us an approval, and then you'll see us start doing the exterior. And as part of phase one, we also have submitted to History Colorado the first floor. And then there'll be a second phase which would deal with the second floor of the building. We're moving ahead with that. We don't see that to have any costs anywhere close to what a car dealership would cost. So that's all planned. What we're gonna do with that building, we're gonna change the facade in the front to make it look more like a building of its age. It'll look a lot like, we have a property at 319 Main where we redid the frontage. It's gonna look very similar to that because there are no photos of that building from its construction period where it was built. Nobody can find them, and everybody's looked. So it's History Colorado has approved that. We've got to do new windows, tuck pointing of the building, and then History Colorado wants us to put where there's a window on the back side of the building, well, the point, the narrow part, we're gonna put a door where a window is and then put a fire escape back there too. Other than that, that's what that building requires. We'll build 4 offices on the main floor, and then we'll worry about the basement and then the upstairs later. So that will go forward.
That's part of the dealership and office space.
Eventually, yeah, but if the dealership hasn't been built,
Right.
we will probably have some of our other people in there as the offices.
So that one won't need an extension since you're moving forward with
I
that.
did
So
not
back
see
to the
that.
dealership part, would your organization be okay if an extension is allowed moving forward this time to give a somewhat of a time frame and show the Urban Renewal Board that the funding mechanisms are in place, you're just waiting for some costs to come down? To make sure we do our due diligence.
Yeah, we can, once we have a little more information, we can give you our progress and tell you where we're at on it and what a potential timetable would be.
And the reason why I ask this is because my biggest concern is we have an empty lot for another 7 to 10 years. And cost went up, we can't do it, we need another extension.
Well, hopefully it's not.
And the purpose of urban renewal is to actually, reinvigorate the community.
Yeah,
Okay.
and our plan is to build it, without question. We have a lot of design sunk into that right now. And design is not cheap when you're talking about architects and engineers and everything. So we intend to move forward with it. We need a new building. The current building we have is so old. The factories hate it. The manufacturers don't like it.
Yeah. He's only asking 1.2. Think?
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Tim.
But originally, we could buy it for 700, and then he raised the price. So, but we thought about it at that point, but the building needs so much. And as I say, the manufacturers, they want a new shiny building. And so we have to please them, especially since with Ford, we have 5 Ford stores, so we try to keep Ford happy.
Thank you.
Commissioner Heck?
Yeah, I read through the letter and I didn't see a real downside for the town other than, having to wait a little longer. Unless, Steve, is there any real downside for the town?
Not that we're seeing, no.
Yeah, and I didn't have a problem with an extension.
Yeah.
But if I may, just to touch on the used building that Commissioner Lopez spoke about. We had several months ago talked about tooting our own horns, so to speak, taking pictures of all the different things that we did. And I had volunteered to go in and take a picture of the building, sort of a before and after. And I was just wondering if we could arrange that.
Sure.
I talked to Carl today, Carl, yesterday, and he said, tonight, maybe we could pick a day, and he'd be more than willing to.
Yeah, Carlos can let you in. I had talked to him the last time we discussed that, and he said, just tell me when. I'll let anybody in.
That's what he said.
He said they just did.
So,
Just yesterday. But we'll discuss it tonight. So.
okay, good. And that was basically it. I don't have a problem with an extension, and, I don't see that anybody else is gonna run in and, buy the building, buy the property, right away, so, I think it's fine.
Well, you have to say with where the dealership is, we have property on both sides. So what's in the middle is a little bit oddly shaped, and I don't know what somebody would do with it.
Yeah.
Since Maple Street doesn't go all the way to Cedar, it's, it fits well for us. And that's why, when we had the other 2 pieces, I'm the one who looked at it and said, we need to find that piece. So, and that's when Jay had the idea, then let's move the dealership there. So, as you know, we used to be over off the highway, over by Walmart, and then we were out kind of on the east side of town for a while in the Power Sports building, and then, so that's kind of how we move around in town. That was for Toyota, but now, yeah, we're committed. I can honestly tell you that, and that's what we're telling all of our employees, and we've told them that, and we've shown them that. And we're going to continue to have, this doesn't really address this directly, but indirectly, we're going to have some regular quarterly meetings with all our people down here with our executive team to come back and say, okay, this is what we're doing, keeping people up to date. Because unfortunately, there was a lot of rumors and a lot of gossip when Jay passed that we're leaving, people were firing people, we didn't fire anybody, but we don't intend to. So we're pretty committed. I mean, you can tell by the hotel. And that is a good example of, we got it done, but the cost overruns on that were about 60% because of it went from a certain price to where it ended up, and it was just that we didn't have a choice. We had to pay it. We paid it out of our pockets. Our construction loan was a set amount based on the original design, and well, not design, the original cost, and we just had cost overruns constantly. So everything costs so much more, materials.
I think it's a reasonable request, and we did talk about it last month, and I know, like I said, it's a reasonable request.
Thank you. Anything else?
From my aspect, I'm going back with this, I'm intimately familiar with everything that went on from the beginning to the end when we were given a piece of land by the city of Trinidad and had to go through a longer period of time than was expected. But that was the advent of COVID, and a lot of things happened and a lot of delays occurred. And with urban renewal, never really having done anything like that before. Under the time that I was with urban renewal, it took a lot of designing of a development agreement and a lot of other things. So I'm familiar with a lot of the details and why it might be there now. So as far as that is, in my opinion, is I'm okay. I would be okay with going forward with an extension on it, because based upon the performance of Kip Hamden and the long organization and everything that has happened, I have really no doubt that it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of, unfortunately, it's going to take longer and cost more. But I'm under the belief that it will occur, so I'm okay with that. I had, previous to this, talked to Mike Scholl from Ayers and Associates, who assisted us in creating the development agreement with Kip Hamden, and his opinion is pretty straightforward, and that they're willing to create the amendment to create the extension, and it can happen. So, going forward from here, it's just a matter of what you all want me to do to get ready for, have action on this at least next month. That's appropriate?
Yes.
Think so, yeah.
Would that be enough time for you kind of to put the questions in that I asked you about, the dollars and showing and.
Sure.
In that time, with the 30 days be?
Yeah, 30 days to
come back
give you,
an update.
something on the ability to build.
And here's why, Tim. We have residents of this community that we have to answer to and make sure we cover ourselves for our actions moving forward. So, and that would assist me as not the board, but myself personally, to show the community that we are working with you, we are getting the information we need for you to make good decisions on the behalf of the community. So, because it is going to be a benefit for Los Animas County, the city of Trinidad, tax rolls, everything, sales tax. If you have something shiny new, you're gonna have more attractive buyers coming to a new sales, car dealership. And moving forward, I'm sure sales are slow with the interest rates so high right now too. That's not helping either. And the Fed's just announced this morning that they're not going to lower that because the cost of inflation hasn't decreased as the way they're doing. So all of those things are perfect storm for you. But if we could have some of that documentation or something tangible when we move forward with this, that'd be great to have in our wheelhouse.
I can put something together for you for that. Because we have a plan in place. And I can tell you, had it not been for COVID, we probably would have had this dealership built. That's kind of changed everything.
The whole world.
So, and I mentioned the hotel because the hotel is sort of our learning curve a little bit, and we watch the cost just keep skyrocketing. And so, and we had a great contractor, Van Giesen Construction, the brothers are great, but when costs go up, they're not gonna make any money, so we have to adjust. And so we worked together as a team to do that, but it was crazy how much everything went up, So, and we'll experience that with the dealership too. Hopefully though, it's gonna settle, and that allows us more leeway with lenders to get a construction loan and tie it in, and that's kind of where we would go. A lot of times with our dealerships, at the $3 to $4 million range, we would have just cash flowed it. But when it got higher, then we had to look and see, because we have the ability to cash flow. It's just that when it gets into the 8 figures instead of 7 figures, it gets a little harder. Okay.
Thanks for being here. You had to travel to do it, but thank you for being here.
Do you need anything more on I noticed on your agenda you were gonna talk about the Hughes building more.
Well, yeah, if very good.
I'm happy to stick around if you have more questions on it.
And Council, Chairman, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bagley, we can combine your report and get some answers
I'll just
here, so we can sort of.
We can do it right now if you want to.
Okay, that'd be great.
And while you're here.
Let's go ahead and did everybody hear that? We'll just go to item number 4. It's just an informational item anyway, as is everything else. But you want to go?
Yeah, I talked to Carl yesterday, about 2 o'clock yesterday, and
he said that things are going to the city council or city planning, and he says they're waiting, and of course the historical aspect of it. And he just said that they're still, and if you notice, I didn't hand out a paper tonight, just because I didn't have a whole lot more to say that I didn't say last month. But they are moving forward, but it's moving, you know. He said that there's a good chance like in 6 weeks they would be able to do something. Is that about right? Is that,
Yeah.
he's hoping to do something.
I'm hoping 2 weeks if we can push History Colorado, but we'll see. They don't move very well sometimes. And we've been in a bit of a tussle with them regarding the Holy Trinity School, getting that eligible. And we've been fighting over whether it's one building or 2 buildings. And if it's 2 buildings, it doubles the amount of historic tax credits we can get. And so we just got approval yesterday for it to be 2 buildings, which is worth
Nice.
potentially $2 million to us
It's good.
in that
Nice.
structure.
Well done.
So I think they're a little tired of us. Steve, do you agree?
Absolutely, but it's all for good stuff, but we're very happy to see it 2 buildings as well from the city's perspectives.
Yeah. So then maybe they'll take a break from us for an extra week or 2, so it might be 4 to 6 weeks. But we're pushing them, and the architect we have on that, Paul Glenn, is a very good working relationship in the past with History Colorado. He did the E Street School with Dana Crawford, and they got credits approved through that building. So 6 weeks is hopefully the latest.
And also to, I brought up what, you know, as far as to go and take a look at, and Fridays work good for me with this new Department of Corrections thing that I'll be teaching. And we won't have classes on Fridays. So if we wanted to get together, Carl had said anytime, and we could go down there and take some pictures. And
My school was closed on Friday, so, you know, I'm
But that's what-
most Fridays.
I told him, Carl, that we would come to a consensus, give him a date. He says, anytime, Jerry. He says, just let me know and we'll make that work. So whatever is a good time for us, and like you said, you're pretty much open and Carl's gonna do it, so.
Yes. And he's here, and he can let you in and take as much time as you need.
And I've already toured it, but I'd like
Right.
the others to see.
Don't expect a lot.
No, it is.
No.
It's an empty building, but.
Well, that's part of the charm of it, and then we're gonna take
Well,
before and after.
The before and after, yes. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a warehouse building.
Yeah.
You know, it's just brick, and, you know, it's because of the.
Very well
it's
built.
date.
It's
Very well built.
Very sturdy.
In frankness, I'm okay if the 2 of you decide when you can do it. If Fridays work for your schedules or whatever, I'd be fine with just the pictures. You know, it gets really hard.
Yeah.
Every new person you put in to try and match calendars, it adds it by times
Just
10.
pick a
you
date,
know?
let me know, and if I'm available, I'll be
There
there.
you
How
go.
about
You
that?
guys take the lead on
Just
that.
call me, it's about 100-foot walk.
And not to be the city manager, but if you all show up, that's a quorum of you all, and it would have to be advertised, just, you know.
Then how about you and I should show up?
Another reason.
You see more than 2 at the door, we can't do it.
That's right.
Or just take turns.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Anything else?
Probably, I'll try to set it up for not this Friday,
Well,
tomorrow, the Friday after.
the following Friday, the grandkids are down, so I can't do it.
Oh, my goodness,
But,
okay. You're making it tough.
Somebody take their phone and get pictures, right?
So, you know, in 2 weeks, if you can do it, anytime after that,
Okay,
just
we'll
give
plan
us
on 2
notice
weeks.
and I'll make
Yeah.
sure I'm available.
Okay,
Perfect.
Thanks for the reminder.
Thank you.
Absolutely. It's my job.
Right, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Safe travels, thank you.
Thanks.
See you, Sam. Good to see you.
All right, well, we've got 2 items down now. Okay, we move on to item number 2, which is the Housing Now Downtown Revitalization topic that we talked about here recently, and I'm glad you're here, Steve, because you can add as well to that. So, Nick,
Yep. I think it's Mike on as well.
Yeah, Mike was here too.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about the housing now and how TURA could, maybe we could keep pushing that momentum we have from housing now, work with TURA, use your guys' expertise to keep that momentum rolling. Last month at the meeting, you guys inquired about administrative assistance from the city. So for this, we looked at a grant, actually found a pretty good grant since the city opted into Proposition 123. We're committed to 107 workforce / affordable housing. So because we did that, we're eligible for this grant. It's a local planning capacity grant. We had a preliminary meeting about this today actually, so that's why it's kind of still fresh. The main focus of this grant is implementing affordable housing. Like I said, we have a good head start because we've done the housing now. Their biggest thing, and it's a big word for them, is fast track, so fast tracking development. From that meeting today, that was the biggest thing, fast tracking development. And the great thing about this grant is you can actually create a position for it. So we could create a position within the city, and they get paid for it through this grant, which is really good, kind of uncommon actually. So the couple things on that, the position needs to extend beyond 2 years. So the grant is 2 years, so there have to be life after the grant runs out. The max award is $200,000. The match is 20%. And if you were awarded, it'd be a start of about September of this year. Now, how does it tie to TURA? Trinidad has 92 units in downtown housing planned from the Housing Now. And this position could help implement the development of all those units, as well as we were looking to probably give an administrative role for TURA as part of this as well. So that position would be created to implement, yes, the Housing Now, but yes, also for TURA. So that'd be your administration, that piece that you guys have been asking about. So it's pretty preliminary. Just like I said, we just got to it. I think it's opens May 1st. The grant opens May 1st, closes June 3rd. So we're still working on a budget. Like I said, it's a good opportunity to get some funding from the state, create a position, help get TURA. TURA is just involved in the Proposition 123 stuff because of the housing in downtown areas. So it's a good opportunity to tie a lot of this together, and we'd have to kind of divvy up how much we'd expect from TURA, how much we expect from the city on this person's roles and duties. See how it all ties together. We're really preliminary on that, so we don't have any great numbers yet. So we'll have to get back to that next month. That's all I got.
Nick, just so you all know, in the meeting today that we had with them, they told us that just to manage expectations, funding and being able to hire that person probably wouldn't happen until September. But that gives us a little bit of time, especially as we develop the grant application, work with you all as to what that looks like, and then work with you all to implement it. And we think it's a really good thing. It'll help us out at the city and certainly help you all as well.
Sure, I could afford to go retirement.
Michael, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Michael, thank you.
So after the last meeting, the board directed us to look at grants, and this is a unique grant because most of them do not. Almost every grant I've ever applied for doesn't allow for actual staff. This is a unique one in that it actually funds staff for 2 years with a commitment to keep that staff after. So what I would say is that this would help in paying for that staff member and give a little bit of an extra runway in that, we're only paying for 20% for the first 2 years. And so I think if we do go forward with this, there is a nexus through the Housing Now program and the downtown units, like Nick was saying, with having 92 of those units in the downtown, and basically under the goals of what TURA is trying to implement, we could make a pretty strong case that a percentage of this person's responsibilities would be doing those admin functions that you guys have asked for. And so the one thing I would say though is that while we are preliminary, the grant is going to come around really quickly. So Steve and Nick, we're going to need to come next meeting with a formal presentation and a formal request And there's gonna be a percentage of that 20% match that will be coming back to the board to be kicking in for two, it'll be this year, the end of this year's budget, but primarily in 2025.
And Michael's right. I think, like Nick said, it opens May 1st. And sorry to interrupt and hijack the meeting, Chair. I hope
No,
it's
that's
okay that I
fine.
speak. But what we'll also be doing a planning meeting with Robin, I forget her last name, from DOLA, where we can get some of our specific questions answered. It might be a good idea with the board's consent to have Mr. Griego as part of that meeting as well on behalf of TURA.
Did you hear that?
Let's ask,
You got another meeting
let's
today.
ask him and see how he feels about it. No, that's fine, that's not a problem. And just as a note at this point, we do have in our budget, we have built-in admin and director costs, so we have within our budget, aside from everything else,
Yes,
so
we
we
do.
do it. So we have the capabilities of being able to provide some of that,
Match.
some of that match.
That'd be terrific. Great.
Yeah, I mean, if I may, after the eclipse, the planets are aligning for TURA in the city.
It's true.
These are things we've been talking about for a very, very long time, the entire 3 or 4 years I've been here. We asked Michael to go away and say, look for some grants.
Yep.
A perfect fit grant came up in our budget the last little bit of time. We've been trying to put this aside, away, so we knew when this opportunity came, we'd have some dry powder for it, and we do. Good job all around, I think.
Well, and thank you, Pat. And I do want to make the point, though, and it was very apparent in the meeting we had today. It wasn't just specific for us. It was kind of an announcement of the opportunity. But we are light years beyond what other cities are doing on housing.
Yep.
And so we're actually having the challenge of how do we match up the grant application to align with being ahead of the curve, which is a good problem to have. And so getting TURA some support on this makes a lot of sense. But I just want to congratulate us all, the city, TURA, all who are involved. Some of the things that came up in the questions today from the other applicants were, oh, can we use this to do a housing needs assessment? Can we use this for things that Trinidad's done and moved past? So we're really excited that we can kind of be the leaders as to how this grant will be deployed and really get creative as well.
I see us as setting the trend and setting the bar.
Absolutely.
Michael?
So just to make sure the board understands too, the grant is really specific on the staffing around housing. And just so you know, when we opted into Proposition 123, the 3-year commitment was 107 units. So when you look at the Housing Now program and the commitments we've gotten for 92, that's about 90% of the Proposition 123 commitment. And so the case to be made, as Steve has said, you guys are way over the curve on, we've already adopted the expedited review and on all these other things that this housing could pay for. The real focus will be when we make our argument for the funding is that we need capacity and staff to help with the actual implementation of getting those units on the ground. And
Execution.
so that's going to be our case, and kind of as we go forward is looking at the Urban Renewal Authority's responsibilities and involvement in trying to get those 92 units and working on the creative financing as you guys have been discussing with the first 2 applications today. So that's our case, and I think we'll be able to make a pretty strong case, just given our what's potentially walking in the door over the next 2 years.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Lopez.
So the 92 units we're talking about are the ones that are done now, new, ready to move in, those, or are these, what are the 92 units we're talking about?
The 92 units are the only, I'm trying to think, that the East Street School are the only ones that are actually completed. Eagles Hall, 101 Pine, I forget the address on Arizona, which is 8 units, and Holy Trinity, which is 44 units, are the Frank Images, which is already under construction. but I believe those are the downtown units that are count for that 92. And so I will tell you firsthand, because I've been working on the back end trying to assist with the strong communities and then More Housing Now grant for about $4.5 million for the Holy Trinity project. The staff time, the idea is that this person would be working on those types of projects and providing additional capacity to assist, especially if we're awarded that funding. You're talking about tearing up 4 blocks of downtown. So having that additional staffing capacity to do project management, to assist with, getting through entitlements, et cetera, and working with TURA on any type of additional incentives or deals, as well as any new applicants, right? So this isn't just what is existing, but also hoping to keep the ball rolling as well.
So the total number goal from the Senate bill that's just the basic bottom number? Well, we're not gonna stop there, right?
Right.
We're gonna continue on with
Right.
more development. And so if this is a 2-year grant, what's the after 2 years projections for moving forward?
Well, I can kind of answer.
So that's.
Okay, go ahead, Michael, if you want to.
I think that's part of what we'll be coming back to you in May on is we're going to put together a staff position. And again, we apologize, we were trying to get there today, but we had so many questions to be answered from this full call this afternoon. But what we will bring forward is a staff position with all the benefits and a percentage that TURA would be responsible for, because this position would be the admin piece that you guys have been looking at. We do look, and Steve, you might want to talk this a little bit better than I can, but we look at it as a percentage of the staffer that would be hiring in this grant to be partially TURA and some other responsibilities. So Steve, maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah, so for the first 2 years, we're eligible to up to $200,000 for both years. So you can break that down to $100,000 a year. We're required to provide a cash match of 20%. So for the first 2 years, that's what we'd be looking for from TURA as we work on those percentages. What percentage of the match would we ask TURA to fund? What percentage would the city fund? Thereafter, as Nick said, we are required to maintain that position. This is to get the position going, but it's not just 2 years and then that position goes away. We have to keep that going. So we would want to have conversations with TURA at that point about jointly funding that position ongoing after the 2 years.
That's for 1 year?
It's for
Mandatory 1 year?
I don't know, Michael and Nick, maybe, do you know how long we would have to keep that position after the 2 years?
She didn't say, it hasn't came across yet, but someone will have to get clarified.
We will try to figure that out, but I would say at least a year, but.
Well, the way the question is asked in the grant, I've helped with another client with the previous cycle. The way the question is asked is, what they'll be asking for is, what is the long-term vision and commitment to, of this staffing position? And is it going to be just a 2-year contract, or is it going to be a full-time employee?
Yeah.
And I think when you hire an FTE, you are making a commitment to a full-time employee. So I think we would be bringing back to TURA a year 1, year 2 commitment, and then a year 3 commitment, which would be a sizable step, because at that point, the grant funding would be out. But the idea would be, I would look at it this way, is that you're building a runway, you're getting an extra 2 years of runway to get that person kind of up and running at a really reduced rate than what we would have originally been looking at when we first sat down and talked about this position with Ed about a month and a half ago.
Commissioner Lopez?
Thank you.
We'll go back to Commissioner Holliday.
Yes?
So Steve, is there a way then with this position, we know what our needs are right now, but organizations change all the time.
Sure.
And the needs in the organization, the people need to change. Is there a way to try and forward think this?
Yeah.
To where we may not have the same need for the housing now component of this after those 2 years, because we may have built out most of the things where TURA will be involved.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity to actually put something in this position that is a future need for the city anyway, so that we already know we've kind of future-proofed it for, and you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to say, we know what our needs are right now, but if you hired the right person for that and you knew you needed a planner or you needed somebody else later on, can we transition some of this position to keep the full-time position, but still serve our needs in the city.
Yeah, that's a terrific question, and the way I would look at it is, we would want to keep this position as an FTE indefinitely. We need the resources, there's no question there. Our development team consists of Nick and 2 other people. So as we grow and develop, we absolutely need the help. So for the first 2 years, we would meet the requirements as prescribed in the grant. Thereafter, we wouldn't be bound by that, but certainly a lot of the duties that that position's doing, TURA support, housing particularly, would probably remain with that. But I think absolutely, we would have the opportunity after 2 years to reassess that position, mindful that we're keeping it. And there are probably some specific things that we want that position to keep working on, but we could definitely redeploy it to help out in other ways.
Very good. And it'd be kind of difficult to hire someone for 2 years and
fire.
to attract a qualified candidate.
And that gives the city 2 years to plan in our budget to absorb the full cost of that position with TURA, so and you all as well.
Correct.
No, nothing, yeah.
I have a couple of questions. One of them, you know, it's great with this grant thing, and that's the link you had sent me here a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, Michael? That's the one we're referring to, you did, okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. One, on where we're going with this. Now, the prospects or the candidates that we have, or will be seeking, these are going to be for properties that we are considering blighted or with blighting conditions?
So you're jumping back to the actual housing now?
Well, basically,
Sorry.
yeah, if that's where if we're looking at participating in that and in keeping with our plan, with our filed plan, okay, you know, the main thrust of the plan when it was adopted isn't for creating housing, okay? It can be a collateral byproduct, but the plan is for the elimination of blighting conditions. So there has to be a component of the elimination of blighting conditions for us to remain faithful to the plan.
I would agree with you there, and what I would say is that, you know, the state, with the employee, the state is going to run up against this because if any municipality that's bringing on an FTE, there's going to be other duties as assigned, right?
Right.
Housing, unless you're a certain community, housing isn't going to be 100% of the job. The other duties as assigned, part of this is if they're working with TURA, is making sure that they're fulfilling the mission of TURA. What I would say is that a good employee that would fill this position would be taking and looking at any of these properties that come through the program that are blighted. If they have historically had upstairs mixed-use housing components to them, to be working on leveraging those. And also, the other piece of all of this that I don't even think we've been touched into is that Proposition 123 has a planning technical capacity piece. It also actually has a $55,000 per unit piece for additional grant funding. And so as the program evolves, where we might be able to transition to is that, you know, the Housing Now program is no longer in place, but now Proposition 123, this new position would be, you know, guiding applicants through the funding sources of Prop 123 to create housing in those upstairs units, just like our Housing Now program did previously. So there are other access and other avenues that, you know, again, I don't think, will this person 100%, I don't think it's realistic that this person is going to 100% always be focused on the TURA and housing. But I think there's going to be moments when the conditions are right where housing can be part of the discussion. And I think, you know, if the position works on a blighted all commercial property, is it going to be a violation of the grant? No. I mean, I don't think it's realistic that the state's going to think that if they spend, you know, 10 hours of a week working on a different project, that they've violated the grant. So I think there's going to be flexibility there, but the idea here is for somebody to be dedicated to working with TURA as part of their position.
Okay, but that's not really what my question is. My question is
Sorry.
what we're looking at doing is we have to, you know, the existence of Urban Renewal Authority and TURA is for the elimination of blighting conditions, for the remediation of blighting conditions. So what I'm saying is, as we are part of this, you know, we start looking at candidates or potentials. Are these going to be with properties that, you know, the assumption is where we're going with it is it would be, but are we looking at the in fulfilling the plan of what TURA does is for the remediation or the elimination of blighting conditions. So we're talking of looking at buildings that, you know, have conditions that we need to be participating in to eliminate, ultimately adding to the collateral benefit of housing upstairs or whatever that might be. That's what I need to get clear, because we need to safeguard it as well, because we have a filed plan.
And I can help answer that. So, particularly with the housing component tied into that, that's 100% what this is about. So absolutely, so if we're working on blighted properties and trying to figure out ways to revitalize them through TURA action that would precipitate more housing, that's, I think, exactly what they're looking for.
Okay.
And the other thing I would say is, we discussed today, we want to loop our friends at the Housing Authority into the conversation as well and make sure they're partners. And this position would be a great liaison with them as they grow and develop and tie that in. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here.
So, go ahead. One more question. So then we will, the next steps for proceeding to go to the grant application will be undertaken by
By the city.
the city, okay?
Yeah. But again, Chair, I think it'd be good for you to be in our planning meeting that we're scheduling.
Sure.
So, and then we want TURA to be involved in the conversations, review the grant application, make comments, give us feedback as well.
Absolutely.
But we will take the lead on drafting it.
Okay.
Just one last
Oh,
one. if I
sure,
can.
sure.
Some of the things in TURA, it isn't all about housing. Now, it's about blighting conditions, that's why the chair is saying that, but it isn't always about housing. Some of the things that other urban renewal authorities are doing is introducing small-scale manufacturing into certain areas of town that may be safety or public, those kind of things. So there's opportunity here for us to get into some of our other areas of TURA that we really have never been able to get into because we've been kind of boxed into this one area. So I think that position could be a phenomenal position for somebody to hire and retain the right person. But I'm still interested in some of that small scale manufacturing, some of the stuff, the industrial park, some of the infill kinds of things that we might be able to do.
And I think we can get there. We don't want to pollute the
I
waters of the
understand.
application, but
I'm-
yes.
I'm-
But
I'm
I
future
totally
thinking.
hear what you're
Yep.
saying.
At some point, yeah. Commissioner Heck?
And I think this is something that Commissioner Howlett had brought up a while back about maybe actually revisiting our mandate to see what else we could do, where we could fit some things in that might go a little bit past just blight. You know, I think the city has to be involved in that, but we have to see what we'd like to do. If there are things that, you know, might benefit the city that we can do, but we might have to change the mandate a bit. So,
We can't change the mandate.
no, we can't change
That's a
it.
state statute.
We'd have to go to the city and see
Yeah.
what we could do.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's things that we want to massage it however we can, but you can't change, if you want to call it the mandate, because that's,
I don't know if that's the right word.
we're granted existence, and what we do is based upon state statute, and the plan is filed according to state statute. So that's why we have to make sure that whatever we do is going to be in accordance with the plan that was filed in 2015.
I think that's what Commissioner Seck is saying is not the mandate or any statute, it's our plan. Is our plan consistent that we adopted pre-2016? Is our plan consistent with where we find ourselves today moving forward? And if it is, then we're great. If it isn't, then I think we may need to revisit our original Urban Renewal Authority plan and look at that. I think that's the thing that we said before.
Better said than
So
I said.
I deal a lot with grants all the time, so we want to be very cautious implementing new things to this particular grant. This funding mechanism is set for a particular structure.
Yeah.
After year 2 and year 3 comes in, I think then we can really explore other options with the full-time employee. They're no longer have constraints to the grant.
Oh, I understand that.
Right, so that's, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes all total sense. I think you can future-proof it and have some vision ahead, is all I'm saying.
All right, so that's where it goes. Anything else, Nick? Anything else, Mike? Anything else, Steve?
So, thank you guys.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Good work.
Moving on, item number, where are we?
3.
Item number 3, we're going to discuss the Opera House. Everyone is familiar with the Opera House. It's a very prominent structure on the 100 block of West Main Street. On March the 13th, 2024, I had a meeting with City Manager Steve Ruger and Paul Glenn, an architect, and his name has been mentioned at least one time tonight. Thank you, Paul. I think you're on.
He's on the call.
Thank you for being here. And we're talking about the Opera House on West Main Street. Mr. Glenn is working with or for the building owner, Dana Crawford. He at that time provided a lot of information about the building, its current condition, and what plans for the future might make. Steve Ruger was in the part of that meeting, and he's here tonight, and Paul as well, to go ahead and bring you and us more up to speed and with some more details of what it is. And basically, what it is the building owner, who is Dana Crawford, but is it an Opera House LLC? I think that's the actual filed owner of it. They are requesting assistance from Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority in the form of a loan to do some stabilization on the building, which is concentrated on the northwest corner of the building. It's the one on Main Street, and if you're familiar with Trinidad downtown, anywhere after it starts getting dark, you're going to see wildlife either entering or exiting that building. And so that is the corner of the building from the foundation up that is requiring some work. The building owner is requesting some financial assistance, which appears to be in the way of a loan. And so without further ado, Steve, I will turn it over to you, and then as needed, we can ask Paul the same.
Okay, Chair, you're exactly right. So the developer is working very hard to find funding to rehabilitate the entire building. In the meantime, there's not adequate funding right now to do some what the city considers emergency maintenance that has to happen. So if you've seen the south, I guess it'd be the northwest corner of the building recently, there is some restraining on there that's holding the rocks in, but rocks are falling out. We're worried about a public safety hazard. And so that's what we're talking about today. So the request on the loan side is twofold. First of all, it'd be an $80,000 loan request to do the stabilization of that corner. And I will ask Paul to talk more about the specifics of that. Plus another $20,000 for a total of $100,000 to completely redo the temporary boardwalk that's there. Because it's going to take several years, candidly, to redevelop that whole building, that boardwalk can't go away anytime soon. But we at the city would really like to see it, and I know the developer, Paul, and you all would like to see it be something much more attractive. So I will ask Paul to talk about some visions and ideas for sprucing that up as well. The way we would look at this is, with your consent tonight, we would move forward, the city, with drafting on TURA's behalf a development agreement that we could provide to the developer and provide to you. Chair and I talked, it's something that we would want to get to your attorney to review, and then we would bring it, once we have it substantially in the form that we think is agreeable, to you at your next meeting for ratification. Just a couple things specific about it. Would be a loan, so we would want to hear back from you all tonight in the discussion what you think the loan terms should be. How long should it be before the loan gets paid back? The very important thing in this is that we would want to use some collateral otherwise to secure the loan, probably not the Opera House itself, because the city nor TURA, I think, wants to have a default and then we take possession and now it's our problem at that point. So we would want to talk offline and then with you at your next meeting about what that collateralization would look like. So that's kind of what we're aiming for. But we, as the city, recognize it as a major public safety concern. We also recognize the tremendous value of the building from its historic standpoint. And I think we can all agree, a lot of us would like nothing more than to see that come back to its original glory and be a prime feature on that very historic corner of our downtown. So I'm going to pause there, and I'll certainly be here for questions, obviously, but I'd like Paul to talk about what the work entails to stabilize that corner, and then Paul, if you can also talk a little bit about what we might do to improve the walkway, and then anything else you want to add, I'll yield over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.
Good evening, gentlemen. Paul Glenn, PSTM Architecture. I think Steve hit it right on the head. So the northwest corner of the building has been compromised over the years. We, the roof did have some leaks in it. We managed to repair those leaks and dry the building in. But during that time, it deteriorated, part of that corner, limestone panels and the brick behind it. It also compromised a little bit of the flooring in that corner. So we obtained a bid and basically $80,000 to repair that corner and temporarily stabilize the flooring, the wall, and the masonry and the sandstone panels. Part of the conversations that came up as well were what can we do with the walkway out front? Last year, the owner repaired the actual walkway and primed it, painted it, structurally rehabilitated the walkway. The roof on that walkway is needed until we can move forward with the project. And so in the interim, we felt that it would be good, and Steve and I were talking that let's try to dress that up, get rid of some of the signage that's up there, and let's make that pleasing, not only structurally sound in the corner, but also pleasing to look at for the next few years till the project can get underway. We have been working on animal mitigation in the building as well. So that's been an ongoing issue for years, but we are working on that. I think, and I've mentioned this before in some of my speaking, with respect to this corner, it is an incredible piece of history on that corner. All four of those buildings on Main and Commercial have been there for 130 years. And so this building is vitally important to maintaining that same look. And so with that said, the owner, I'd like to share a screen with you.
Do you have screen share access, Paul?
I do.
Okay, good.
So the owner, Dana Crawford, has and our office have put a lot of effort into restoring or providing plans and design for this building to get it back to its glory. And so this rendering talks to that image and that thought and that vision. And so this is what it could look like. This is what it's intended to look like at the end of its rehabilitation process. We just need some time and help stabilize the building until we can get to the end result.
All right, thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
So one thing I did want to mention, part of my discussions with Paul, we really want to give TURA acknowledgement if you guys choose to move forward with this. So we want a sign out there that says this, work is funded in part by TURA, gets you guys some recognition as well. And then the image that Paul has there we'd like to incorporate that on the building as well, so people can see that there is a vision for this and that, we're moving forward. So with that, Paul and I are here to answer any questions you all have.
Commissioner Hallett?
Yeah, certainly better walkway was in there.
Yeah.
I would start with, there are very few buildings in Trinidad that if addressed and if brought forward, would have a bigger impact on what a TURA, an urban renewal authority can do and how you would benefit the downtown in Trinidad than the Raccoon Opera House, okay? I'm for putting TURA money to work. And if it's putting it to work with accrual of interest, a repayment, then that's favorable to me because of the TIF. Where TIF's not going up, TIF continues to kind of go down, and that's an area where it's our revenue source. Without a revenue source, this looks like it would be a revenue source for us. I certainly we'd need to get our attorney, Paul, and Ayers and Associates to help us with loan structure. So that'd be something that I would withhold anything I say up until what does the structure of the deal look like and where are we? I would like to see some insight into the future plan though, and I see this, but maybe and this addresses a bit of when I wrote that question down. But I'd like to see what's going to be the use in the building. Is it going to be a TIF monetized building? Will it be one of those things that TURA can look at and say, okay, we invest in this in a loan, we get repaid on the loan. It now comes to fruition, and now we're getting TIF from that building, because most of the buildings that were done downtown, we're not going to get any TIF from because they were done for other entities, okay? And so we've kind of been locked out of some of the opportunities that we had with some of those buildings. I certainly would want to see if the objective is to removing the raccoons and their ability to reclaim the building would be part of this process. So in fixing that structure and stopping the things, do we eradicate do we find them a new home? And are we making it in this $80,000 loan an ability for them not to really return easily? If it's just the same, you know what I mean? There may be other areas there. And this is a question, Steve, kind of to you. And I had an opportunity to meet Paul at the opening of the East School, and so I hold him in high regard. His work is very, very good. But is this something that I'm going to say this way, it's okay if you hedge on the answer, okay? Is this something that the city is endorsing? Is the city looking to TURA right now? Because we are a city mandated function. We serve for the city's best purposes, okay? Is this something that the city is looking to TURA and saying, guys, we'd really like for you to look at this. If you did this with us, it would help things move forward?
100%, and
okay.
Because of the reasons I mentioned earlier, the
okay.
eminent public safety concerns.
Yep.
So that's why the city is supportive of this request. We really want yesterday to have the building stabilized, but certainly as we get into the summer season and have events, even just from a cosmetic standpoint, we're supportive of at least this initial phase of the work moving forward.
I see a lot of wins here. I'm done.
Mr. Lopez?
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Paul, for being here with us. And I have a few questions for you guys regarding the loan and funding, and same thing with Mr. Hamden, or if you were listening, Paul. My question would be, number one, do you guys have a hard number of restoration for the entire building at this point? Have you gotten to that level? What's the time frame looking at? I know this would be a Band-Aid to assist to get that funding mechanism, but do you guys have the hard numbers in place regarding the pictures you showed us here on the TV and also on that Steve gave us? Or is this just a rendering of what it could look like, and it's just a few hours of a drawing that you've done? Or have you guys gone into the weeds of getting an actual design build process moving forward at this time?
So we have not entertained a design build process on this. We have evaluated the cost, structurally stabilize it as well as build it out. We're still in the preliminary stages of that. We do know that the main floor would be white box. The corner where it used to be Houseman Drug is in really still pretty good shape. It's beautiful. So we have hopes of that to be some sort of restaurant. At this point, we're throwing numbers at it. The thing that's hard about today's day and age post-COVID is, we all know the supply chain, the cost has gone through the roof and fluctuating. Things are starting to stabilize a little bit. So we have looked at how we can finish out the upper floor, which would be housing, and then the basement floor. We do actually have a plan to try to utilize the basement as leasable square footage as well. We've created kind of an arroyo, we call it an arroyo in the back, but it's a lowered area that opens up that rear floor on the backside to leasable square footage. So in a nutshell, to answer your question, we have preliminary numbers right now. We're still going through those. We're not part of the design build. We do have a full set of floor plans for this building as well. So the developer has taken it that far. We're still massaging that based on funding mechanisms.
Okay, so moving forward, the next process would be stabilizing the building and this moving forward. What's your time frame looking at? And we heard from Kip Hampton and I regarding the costs to finally stabilizing. You just said the same thing, availability. What's the time frame moving forward, number one, of getting this project started? And number two, unlike Jay Chimino and Phil Longford Dealerships, which there's a conglomerate of folks behind that, Ms. Crawford in her investment does she have, if something comes to her, demise, God forbid, a backup plan to bring this to fruition with the plans that we're going to be presenting us in the future, or what's the plan, the backup plan for that?
The time frame, we're looking at this project in phasing. And our number one phase right now is to structurally stabilize the building. It's critical to get it in a condition where the exterior looks the way it is. It's dried in with the windows, the roof, and that we've structurally stabilized all of the floors inside. We're hoping within 2 years, a year to 2 years, that can come to fruition. Closer to a year, I would hope. We just don't have a lot of time. It's obviously all based on funding. Phase two, and part of that first phase is we do have to have an area that generates revenue, just a small portion to comply with funding requirements. Certain portions of the capital stack. So we would need, some occupiable area within that. And that kind of forces the hand on the structural stability of the project. As far as a backup plan, I'm not clear on what you're asking with that. The full plan is to rehabilitate this building. Obviously, any building of this size, we know from East Street School, Trinity, Columbian, it's a monumental effort with so many moving pieces, EPA, state funding, federal funding. I think that's the goal, that's the end goal. So I'm not sure if there's really a backup plan, so to speak. If you could clarify.
Well,
what you mean.
we had Jay Chimino pass away recently, and there's some concerns in our community with his passing that the projects he had going forward were going to come to a stop. We've had reassurances from Mr. Lamb tonight that that's not happening. They did have a public work session recently with their other projects going on. What's in Ms. Crawford's wheelhouse of a group of a board of directors investors? Is she sole investor? She's only the sole proprietor? How would this board be assured that if something unfortunate happened to her, this project would come to fulfillment?
So I would like to take that back to Ms. Crawford and bring that up at a future time. I don't have an answer for that right now.
Great, thank you, and I appreciate that. And one last question. Why TURA for the funding? Why not a private banking institution? The reason why I ask that is, have those options been exhausted? Because I'd sure hate for TURA to be competing with the private sector.
So, TURA, I mean, this is just me speaking personally as an architect, and I work with a lot of developers. I'd love to see TURA a part of this. I think it's a huge opportunity for TURA to show partnership with the city, with private, that we can all bring a project together to fruition like this. With respect to private lending, like I said, that's a complicated matter. This portion, we're in kind of an emergency situation. We feel we'd love you to be a part of it. We are working to get the funding on the private sector, whether it's a bank or private equity. And part of that capital stack too would be state and federal funding with respect to grants and tax credit.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
And if I may, I do want to mention that we did explore other funding as well prior to the discussion here with TURA. So particularly with History Colorado, they have an emergency grant fund. Unfortunately, this doesn't qualify. It would have to be due to an act of God or some kind of catastrophic event, but just years of negligence on maintaining the building doesn't qualify for the emergency funding.
Commissioner Heck?
It's a safety issue at this point. The city has to get it done one way or another. And it sort of gives us an opportunity to be involved in something that is within our wheelhouse, because the building is blighted. And if we can get, if we get a collateralized loan,
Yeah.
where we're, as Commissioner Howlett said, we're eventually going to be getting revenue from it. I think it really works for us, and like I said, it has to get done, because God forbid the corner of the building collapses on somebody, So if we can get involved in something, if we have the funds that we can give, and if it's collateralized, I think that works for us.
Commissioner Bailey?
I agree with
Mr. Heck?
I have a question though, Paul. You mentioned that the northwest corner is that the only part of the foundation that's being compromised, or is it the whole thing, or just, I know that's our Band-Aid type of thing to go, but what's, the rest of the foundation, how does that look?
So, with a building of this age, I mean, it's one of the first on that corner, and so the whole building needs work. This corner is in dire need of help. The whole building needs it. That's why our priority as architects and engineers are to structurally stabilize the building throughout as part of our first phase. It's good for now. It's not going to last forever, as any old building, will attest to that. But we need to act quickly on it, and I think that's where the city and I, Steve and I have been talking, and Ms. Crawford, is that we really need to move this corner forward, and then we can. In the meanwhile, we've got a couple trains going down multiple tracks simultaneously. We're working on funding with this. We've spoken to EPA on it, and so the wheels are in progress. It's not just this corner. This corner is imminent right now, but
I have one more question. What's gonna happen to Frank Sinatra when, you know, when we do something there? Does he go away or, for that walkway or?
Yeah, exactly.
so we've started some sketching on the walkway. The walkway right now, it does its purpose. It protects the patrons on the street from you know, falling debris. But what we're proposing is to leave most of the walkway as it is. Like I said, the walkway itself was rebuilt last year. That's structurally sound. The roof is structurally sound. We'd like to dress up the front with a facade, a parapet that picks up images from the building. The relief patterns on the sandstone. We would, you know, properly drain water off of that roof, but it would be something that's a little more contextual with what's there, other than just a safety platform. So we would have a dual purpose. Unfortunately, the signage would go away. We would paint, you know, the transoms, and get it looking, you know, the best we can for right now until we can move forward with phase one.
I have no other questions. Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
I have a question. So it's reasonable to assume that the stabilization of that northwest corner, the rest of the building is still adequate, that we don't fix the corner and then the other side falls in or something else, you know, is there gonna be any exercise in futility, or will that be a stabilizing point to be able to let all these things happen up to and including the rendering that you've got on screen?
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantees or warranties with anything, but I can tell you, we get this corner fixed, we're working diligently to get the balance of the building up to the same condition. You know, the brick, the sandstone, here's something that during our investigation of the piece that's failing on the northwest corner is, you know, the sandstone is not the best, you know, building material. It was used widely throughout the city. Fortunately for us, the detailing that you have when you normally attach a panel like this to a building nowadays, utilizes, you know, dovetail type attachment. This building was ahead of its time and used that type of attachment. So we're pleased that way. As far as the balance of the facade until we can get to it, which was one of our concerns. Obviously, tuck pointing the building is a major concern for us. Foundation appears to be fine right now. We have to get it stabilized and brought up to current standards. You know, we are in an earthquake zone, so we always worry about that.
Well, I just want to, on a side note, because he just mentioned the word earthquake, and you mentioned that DOLA funding isn't available because
History Colorado.
Well, yeah, okay, Colorado, because it's neglect, not a natural catastrophe.
Yeah.
But I recall this particular building and a prior owner and prospective developer, Ashland Properties, came to TURA back in 2018. And one of the recognized deficiencies of the building was that northwest corner. And at that time, they were blaming an earthquake. So you know, just as an FYI, that's where that all went. Obviously, a visual look of it says something else. So, you know, a side note has nothing to do with it because there's a problem at hand and it needs to be addressed. Anything else, Steve? Anything else?
Just a couple wrap-up comments, if I may. On the History Colorado emergency grant, I also believe it's capped at about $15,000. So it wouldn't be viable no matter how you slice it. So we don't want to encourage earthquakes. But I did want to have Alice in England here, but she moved away. She was going to sing opera. But just a couple other things. So on the raccoon question, which is a very good point, Paul and his team are definitely trying to do some mitigation. We do have a well-intended citizen who's feeding the raccoons behind the building, which is something our police department is actively working on. that's causing the colony to really be very fat and be very present there. So we'd like to see the feeding go away, which would at least help a little bit in mitigating some of the problems there. Part of, there's an assumption, it may be true or may not be, but we have witnessed raccoons going in and out of cracks on that northwest corner, and that's probably exacerbating the deterioration as well as they're out and about doing things. So that's something that we definitely need to have as part of the cleanup. The last thing I wanted to mention is just to add a little bit more context to the history and the stature of this building. Chair Griego was there, I was there, we had the landmarking for Temple Aaron a couple weekends ago. And as part of the National Park Service representatives who were there giving their speech, they specifically highlighted Jewish history pertinent to the Opera House being owned by the Jaffas. So it is something that's you know, an integral part and a well-known part of Trinidad's history. So I just wanted to point that out as well. We get a lot of questions here at the city. Why don't you just tear it down? Why don't you just build a parking structure? There certainly, you know, could be from an urban planning standpoint some great uses for that corner, but from a history standpoint, it just kind of makes sense to at least give it a go to see if we can save the building. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, with the stabilization of the corner, once we get through that, we have no problems reopening up the sidewalk there, which is something we want to get to for pedestrian access and just making sure we have good flows through there. So I'll stop there. Any other questions for me?
Yeah, based on, one more question if I could. So has our experts, somebody, we have an engineer on with Public Works, has our engineers looked at this? Have we looked at this? And when we're looking at this, the $80,000, we're confident that the $80,000 loan investment will take care of that corner, but also take care, so does this cover both the things that have been presented today? $80,000 will take care of that corner?
100,000.
What's that?
100,000.
Yeah, 80,000 for the
for
corner.
corner, 20,000 for the sidewalk.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. And so what I would say to that is, no, we haven't gone and done an in-depth look, but this will require permitting for the construction side. And at that point, our building inspector, our public works, everybody involved will verify the work, and we'll have to sign off on it before.
And we'd have access to all that information before
All
we're gonna
public
put a loan together and okay.
It wouldn't be before the loan, because the construction permit wouldn't be pulled before then. But should for some reason, and I hate to think about this happening, but just worst case scenario, we get to a point where the city doesn't approve the permit and we say, no, absolutely, we can't, you know, authorize this work or anything, which wouldn't happen. But let's say it did, the loan would be returned back to you at that point. And we could even put a provision in the development agreement that the funding wouldn't be authorized till the work begins.
Good deal.
It's a good question.
So I just have a follow-up comment regarding this whole application, possible application of $100,000. I'd like to remind the board, we're not made of money. We don't have a lot. If we're looking at a possible grant from earlier of up to $40,000, which we have $55,000 budgeted for administrative costs, we also have a $352,000 balance in our, then we're at $100,000, now we're doing $252,000. I just want to caution the board, moving forward with this, if it's going to be a long-term repayment, how it's structured, and so we just had a nice influx of money from the huge lumber building with the city of Trinidad did with us and stuff. So just be cautious. We don't have a lot of money in our, and we haven't had a lot of money ever. So how do we properly, fiscally responsible manage the community's money moving forward for a private entity who is not public? It is private. So as Jerry owns a building, I own a building, Ed owns buildings in the community, Pat, I'm sure. How does that private guy come to Urban Renewal and say, I need some help fixing my building? So we open that Pandora's box. We open that door, how many other come forward for remaining in our coffers? So just to, that's why I mentioned the private sector of funding that. However, this is blight and this falls in our house.
Yeah, I would say, does the city manager come with those folks? Probably I would receive them differently, you know, so.
What I'd actually like to hear from you all tonight is what you think a reasonable repayment term would be, because that would help us in drafting, you know, the development agreement. So that way, when you all are approving it, you're not negotiating on the fly what the term would be. At least if we can get some semblance of what you'd be comfortable with, we can have those conversations on your behalf.
I think we need heirs and
Well,
associates.
I would like to mention a couple of things. One, we have a fund balance right now, and it is in our budget. We show for renovation projects to be determined at $372,000. And we have been able to bring our coffers up as a result of property sales, minimal TIF, and those kinds of things. We're able to do it. So, you know, one of the things going forward is, you know, we will be working, or we could be working with private entities to have this happen. And it could be based upon a negotiation with the TIF that we collect from that property, whatever else. So it's one of those things where we do have to be frugal, and we have to be cognizant of how we spend land or grant the monies. And so, you know, do it. But I think, you know, in looking at it, you know, we do have funds available, which in this case, you know, we have a public safety concerns and a building that, you know, going forward, if not, you know, there could be a lot worse things. So in consideration of that, well, I understand, and you're totally right, we are stewards of public funds. So we have to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're doing our diligence as we go. But you know, when we have situations like this, you know, working with the private sector, it's going to be something, if it's in the way of a loan and collateralize it, we have protection for us and the community we serve. Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
You know, I came from New Jersey 3 years ago, but there was a similar type of building, historic building in Red Bank, New Jersey. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Red Bank, but it's you know, a big part of New Jersey, or the southern part of New Jersey, the beach communities. And they had a revitalization of this building, which had gone into blight, and they brought it back to, because I became a patron for a number of years. And they brought it back to an unbelievable place that people would go to for all sorts of things. But the amount of money that was brought into the community every time they had an event over there was staggering. And I know this because I can barely ever find a parking spot in the whole town. And it would, if our vision is to try to, in the future, have this benefit the town, I see this as a win, because if this building is brought back, it will benefit this town greatly with the events that we can put on over there. And if it's not, well, we've still confronted a safety issue that has to be confronted, whether it's tourist money, the town's money, or whoever. So, from my point of view, remembering what we did in New Jersey, if this ever comes out to something like that, everybody will love it, and it will benefit the town.
Consensus.
I think we need the city and want an answer quickly.
Yeah.
I don't believe we're able to provide that answer quickly. So what I would like to suggest is that we, as soon as possible, get with either heirs and associates, our counsel in that area, or our attorney who has experience in those areas, and as quickly as possible, we get a recommendation maybe from them that we can look at to get, because I understand the sense of urgency. This is a time is of the essence thing. So, but I don't feel comfortable saying, hey, let's do it for X% at X number of terms and put up your car as collateral. I don't feel comfortable laying down the terms of a loan.
And I think the ask tonight is for consensus for me as city manager, working with the chair to move forward on getting together with Paul and coming up with some form of a draft development agreement.
Well, consensus for me, then I'm a strong yes on this moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, so you're not making obviously any final decisions about yes
I'm
or
a strong
no.
yes on this moving forward.
Initiation.
Yes, sir.
Paul, would 30 days from now be sufficient for you and the city, for us to come to a decision and an agreement?
I believe it would, yes.
Okay, so I have no problem moving forward at that time. Yeah, just I'm very conscious about private sector and make sure that our local lending institutions are okay, or they don't have to even know really. But I sure hate to have a call from Joey DeGarbo or president of a local bank saying, hey, they could have came to us, we could help them too. So that's my only really issue on it going forward. But I have full confidence in our attorney giving us the advice how to move forward and proceed.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
You're not voting, you're just giving. Yes, okay, thank you.
Well, we have the Columbian, we have the McCormick, and we have the First National Bank,
Yeah.
all outstanding buildings. And it would be nice to see the Opera House in that, so.
All right, we will get cracking on it and get some things back to you as soon as we
What
can.
if I said?
You're up.
You didn't wait for me. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, Paul, we
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're walking away from this one, basically,
The marching orders.
yeah, we're gonna start with some, do conference with Paul Benedetti, from the city side. Steve will begin that part.
Yeah,
We'll look at it and have something that we can, and I will be communicating with everybody going forward on this, so, watch it.
Do we need to have another meeting, a special meeting?
No, the 30 days was good
No,
for
yeah,
everybody.
we'll-
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
we'll-
cover that.
we'll be working on it in between here and there, so not a special meeting unless something really drastic came up, then I'd have to get a hold of a couple of you people a couple of you commissioners, I'm sorry, bad wording, to be able to formulate that or get approval, so I don't think we're in that position at this particular point.
But Chair, is it okay if you find that information, our attorney does some things, that as soon as you have that, you can share it with the city early on, so at least we're using that period of time.
And I'll
so-
share it with you all as well, I'll be sharing.
Yeah,
Perfect, thank you guys.
Thank you. Item number 4, Hughes lumber property update, and that was already discussed quite well. Item number 5 is just a reminder, we do have board vacancies that we need to consider. The city does actively advertise those, but there's not a lot of volunteerism going on these days. You know what it's like and what you're doing.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, so it's difficult, and we will continue that quest. Item number 6, anybody have anything they want for future work discussion? Work session discussion? I think after tonight, I think we've got a full complement of what we can do going forward. So if you want to add something for next month, let me know.
I just want to add, with Commissioner Lopez's request for the documents to Hampton, I'd like to certainly have that as an item there. I think that's probably already there. And then I just had getting with our attorney to look over the loan agreement.
Okay, well, what my plan to do on that is, if Tim Lamb has that in time for us, we can have it on the work session in next month.
Yep.
And then if there's a document for approval of it, if it meets everybody's, we can get that done and behind us, because although we have a few months on it, I like to just see business transacted and done, so
Yes, sir.
it takes everything out of limbo.
And if I may add to that, with the discussion with the grant that we had this evening, maybe a follow-up conversation with the city and your team of what the urban renewal, the staff members' role would be to urban renewal, a percentage of time frame, allowance, and what that projection will look like after the grant is expired for commitment to urban renewal moving forward.
that'd be great. And the timing of your meeting, I think it's somewhere around May 11th, is perfect as part of the grant application. So we can bring that and have that discussion next meeting.
Thanks. Anything else? If not, we are going to move from work session to the regular session. It's 7:08 PM. Today is April the 11th, 2024. This is a regular meeting of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 1 is roll call, please.
Begley,
Here?
Hecht,
Yeah,
Howlett,
Here?
Lopez.
Here.
Griego.
Here. Item number 2, approval of the minutes provided to everybody in the minutes of the most recent meeting conducted March 14, 2024. Everybody was provided an advance copy of those minutes in the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Howlett with a second by record this for my own. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Bagley,
Yes.
Hecht,
Yes.
Howlett,
Yes?
Lopez.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes. Item number 3, acceptance of the financial report. That information also contained in the agenda, and that account balance and revenue is as of the last business day of March 31st, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve for the financial report.
Second motion?
Commissioner Bagley with the motion, with Commissioner Lopez as a second. Is there any questions or comments? I have one comment. You just note that we did, even though I mentioned at last month's meeting that we hadn't seen anything come through, but we did have our payment come through, and we're showing year-to-date receipt of TIF $10,233.
Something?
And the first half was due February, but the full is coming April 30th, and then June would be the second payment, so we still got some
We
room.
got some hope.
Right.
Roll call?
Bagley,
Yes.
Hecht,
Yes.
Howlett,
Yes?
Lopez.
Yes.
Griego.
Yes. Item number 4, consideration of bills, and I don't believe we have any this month. Item number 5, petitions or communications, oral or written. Is there anybody in the sitting audience or anybody attending via go-to meetings that would like to address Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? I will again ask if there's anybody in the sitting audience or anybody on go-to meetings that would like to address Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Let the record reflect that there is no one that has come forward. Item number 6, old business, there is none. Item number 7, new business, there is none. Item number 8, report by executive director. We do not, but as the board chair, I do transact business from month to month for the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. One thing I have to report, I did receive a facade improvement incentive application via email yesterday from Keely Williams. Obviously too late to get it onto the agenda, so that will be on the agenda for next month. You will all have advance information for review prior to next meeting. Item number 2, I would like to thank City Manager Steve Ruger for being here and help us with all the information. I also would like to thank Desi Sandoval for being here and assisting me. She helped me get the agenda out for this and is here tonight, so we appreciate it. And I understand, you do, it's your time after the normal shift, so really do appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you.
That's all I have. Item number 9, reports by commissioners. Commissioner Bagley, we're gonna go this time.
I have something to report. I just wanted to tell you that next month, I think we'll have something for, from the Hughes, according to, we heard Tim Lamb talk today, that they're really trying to get things going. We'll have something for some pictures and stuff here in a couple weeks. We'll be able to provide that. But also just, I wanted to thank Carl for providing updates, willing, and I just want to be able to say that I appreciate working with him and appreciate bringing those things to you guys. I'm sorry I didn't have as much today, but Tim provided most of that. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Hick,
Don't have anything.
Commissioner Lopez.
A lot going on. I'll have a better report for you regarding rail. Steve and I, we all kind of talked about before the meeting, but on the record, the board will be considering next Thursday whether to go to a ballot measure for a taxing of the district for funding from anywhere from 0.2 to 0.4 cents up and down the I-25 corridor up to $400 million annual budget to get started, rolling stock and everything else that comes with it. So they have made me the treasurer of the organization. We've implemented some funding in some high interest accounts moving forward. And the reason I bring up rail is because it works hand in hand with the UBA, the system that possibly will be a great connection. I have brought that to the attention of the Front Range Passenger Rail Board. They're very excited to see that connectivity and to keep them in the loop. So Steve, if you can kind of keep me in the loop. But I don't attend all the city council meetings, but I try to.
Yeah, let's talk offline.
What's moving forward with that. So I think it'll go hand in hand with Front Range Passenger Rail in the future and this possible transportation in the city. and everybody's excited for the connectivity.
Mr. Hollett?
Nothing to report?
Item number 10, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn? I second.
Commissioner Hollett, Bagley on the second.
That was
It
quick.
is 7:14 PM.
Good work, all.
There are no dissenting votes. We will call this meeting adjourned,
Stay
7:14.
corrected. I
Thank you,
next
everybody.
Friday